And Red learned optimism, and it was one of those kind of aha moments in your life. And the aha was, I finally understood my older son. So my older son, Tyler, has played baseball all his life. He's now a teacher in Kentucky, but he played through 2 years in college. I hated baseball as a kid. So at 7 years of age, he says, Dad, I want to play baseball. And I said, well, okay, what do we do? And he said, well, we go sign up over here at Creve Hall. And little did I know we were signing up for one of the most competitive baseball leagues in this part of the state. And he loved it from the day he walked on the field, and he was good at it. And I studied kind of the mental game of baseball and worked with him on that some. I had done some coaching in archery, and it's an extremely mental sport, so we were able to translate that. And so I kept reading this stuff, and all of a sudden I'm reading through the book, and I go, oh, that's Tyler. Tyler is a flaming optimist. Or in other words, he has a very positive explanatory style. And what that means is basically that what explanatory style says is that how you react to adversities says a lot about how you're going to bounce back, and especially what you think about it. So when an adversity happens, something goes wrong, which happens all the time in baseball. You fail all the time. You can think in kind of two different poles about that. One pole is defined by me, always, everything. So it's because of me, something about who I am. It's always going to be that way. It's going to affect everything that I do. That's a negative or a pessimistic explanatory style when you're talking about adversities. Or you can think, cut, that's out there, it's only that, it's over and done with. It's not me, not always, not everything. So the cause of this is something outside of me. It only applied to that situation, and it's in the past. It's not going to affect anything else. And if your reaction, if your thought process says out there only that, over and done with, then it's not hard to bounce back because it's not going to affect everything else. And so the story that I remember about this is Tyler's about 12 years old. He'd been playing fairly competitive baseball for quite a while. He was playing a game. I remember nothing about the game other than just this. But about the fourth inning of the game, he gets a ball hit to him on the ground. He played first base. Ball hits the heel of his glove, pops out in front of him. Error on the first baseman, runner safe. All I remember about the game, except that Dad also had the belief that Tyler wasn't as good a fielder as he was catching batted balls on the ground as he was many other things. Ball thrown through the air, ball up in the air, hitter, lots of other things he was good at, pitching. So after the game, I talked to him. I said, Tyler, what happened in the fourth inning with that grounder? He said, hit the edge of the grass and took a funny hop. Okay, grass, infield, dirt, base path. If it hits that, it scoots. You know, major leaguers miss those plays, so that's true. I don't remember whether I saw the play well enough to disagree with him or whether I just assumed he was making an excuse and not taking responsibility or what. But I remember I said to him, now Tyler, you just missed that ball, didn't you? He said, no, Dad, it hit the edge of the grass. It took a funny hop. And I said, now Tyler, your fielding skills aren't, this is good parenting right here, good mental coaching right here. Your fielding skills aren't quite as good as your other skills. So you just missed that ball. No, Dad, it hit the edge of the grass, took a funny hop. Now Tyler, the third time I said, now Tyler, he just turned around and walked away from me. And in one of my better parenting moves, I let him go. Because I knew, from having watched him over the years, having coached him in archery and baseball, that he had about the best mental game I had ever seen on a kid, that he could come back from adversity of all kinds and still be ready to perform the next opportunity that came along, that he almost never saw him throw away an at-bat because he had made an error in the field, or not pitch well in one inning because he had given up some blue hits in the inning before. I mean, he just could. I'd seen him be on the mound and lose games, be ready to come back and pitch. I'd seen him win them. I'd seen him be at the plate, win or lose. He was always ready to come back and play. So I was going, I don't know, something about this just didn't make sense. It kind of seemed like he wasn't taking responsibility, and yet he was always ready to be in a responsible position about doing it. So a few days later, I said to him, Tyler, we've worked on hitting, we've worked on pitching. We've never spent a lot of time working on fielding. I bet if I hit you a bucket or two of balls, you'd be able to make plays you wouldn't otherwise be able to make. He said, fine, let's go. And so we go out in the middle of the day, and it's hot as Hades, and he works and works and works, and he does get better. He becomes a good fielder. And that stuck with me because it was one of those things where I just went, I don't understand what's going on here. And when I read and learned optimism, all of a sudden it made sense. flaming optimist, positive explanatory style, that play was over. His immediate reaction was, hit the edge of the grass, took a funny hop. It's not me. It's not that I'm a bad baseball player. It's not that I'm uncoordinated or any of the things that might have passed through my mind when I was his age. It was, bad hop, not a problem, let's go and play ball. And that started to explain a lot of things to me about how I'd seen him and other kids kind of respond. But the interesting thing from the law standpoint is that at least law school, and Marty Seligman will say law practice, and I've argued with him about this. I don't think we have the data to back that up yet. But in law school, at least to some extent, we have some fairly good evidence that negative explanatory style predicts better grades. And that's very unusual. It's very unusual even in the academic world, but certainly in real life, for negative explanatory style to predict success at anything. Typically, optimist, positive explanatory style, far more successful. But in law school, it appears that folks with negative explanatory style get better grades, make law review more often, all those kind of things. Now, what we don't know with that is whether or not law school tips kids towards negative explanatory style. We don't know whether lawyers tend to have more negative explanatory style than others. And we don't know whether having a negative explanatory style, being a pessimist, predicts being more successful in law. Certainly, I think most lawyers would not assent to the proposition that Marty makes sometimes, that you get better grades in law school, therefore you're a better lawyer. No, they're not that well correlated. I mean, it's not that they're completely uncorrelated, but that's not necessarily so. And certainly not that you're happy practicing law. And what we do know about negative explanatory style, and this seems to be true for lawyers, it predicts depression. In fact, it causes depression. And you can actually inoculate people against depression or bring them out of it by changing their explanatory style. And there are ways to teach people about doing that. So in reading Learned Optimism, I went to a website they'd set up where you could take the test to find out what my explanatory style, and sure enough, I was a pessimist. And there were some other instruments on there, and I took something that's called AuthenticHappiness.com, still there. And as a result of having signed up there, when they started the Masters of Applied Positive Psychology program at Penn, I got an email. And it was kind of like, cold chills up and down your spine. Wouldn't that be cool to do? No way I can do that. I'm 50 years old. I'm not going to be going back and getting a master's degree at an Ivy League school. Lord knows how much that would cost to do that. That's not going to happen. But it was one of those things, couldn't get it out of my head. Kind of went back and looked around at the site a couple of times, got down to the deadline for apply, and I found out you could do it all online, including send off your references. All I had to do was get my transcripts, and I already had them. So I said, okay, we'll just put in an application. And from there, it just kind of rolled forward. I ended up being in the first class that went through the master's program. It was a phenomenal experience. You're with a group of people from all backgrounds, all of whom are interested in studying about positive psychology. You don't walk into a positive psychology program on the first day and start griping and complaining about everything. You kind of put your most positive foot forward, and then you spend a year learning about why that matters, how it works, what the evolutionary background is of positive emotions, and why that's how people succeed.